Hey, you guys, how are you? How are you? How are you? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I am super excited to be back with you. For those of you that are joining on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your continuous and ongoing support. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your follows. For those of you that are joining me on the podcast, I want to say thank you also for being a part of the community where learning about not just starting your nonprofit organization, but really understanding how to grow it, how to sustain it, how to ensure that the impact that you started is able to continue. Over the last several weeks, I've been talking about some of the false narrative, maybe misleading narrative that has been going on for a long time, which has led to a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of missteps for many of you that have started your nonprofit organizations but have never worked in a nonprofit. Don't understand the internal systems and processes of operating the nonprofit organization. And I don't know if operating is really the right word, but I want you guys to give me some feedback. If you understand when I say operating your nonprofit organization, I am meaning operating all of the things that work inside the organization to ensure that the organization has what it needs to continue to do the work, right? The work, from your point of view, might be the program. The work is the program, right? But the program is an expense. The work of doing the program is different than the work of operating or continuing to grow the presence, the sustainability of the organization, which is what you started, right? You started a nonprofit organization. So the operating of the organization is what must be structured before you can get the funding for the program, which is the work, right? The program is the work. However, it is the organization that has the systems, the structures, the internal dynamics to bring in the funding so that that work can continue. Am I making sense? A lot of the misunderstanding that comes into this space is, Jen, I need the money. Jen, I need funding. Jen, I need a grant. Jen, I need partners. Jen, I need donors. Jen, funding is my biggest issue, right? I started my nonprofit organization, Jen, but I don't have money to operate. Jen, I started my nonprofit organization, but I need grants to continue to pay for the work. Jen, I started my nonprofit organization, but I don't have partners. I don't have collaborators. I don't have the system, the structure, the plan, the strategy to bring in the money so that we can continue to pay for the work. The work is not free, right? It costs money to run the organization. And unfortunately, many of you realize that or come to that awareness well after you've started the nonprofit, well after you filed the paperwork, well after you've been paying for everything out of your own pocket, well after being denied for grants, for donations, for contributions, for struggling financially, or well after you started your nonprofit organization and then had to stop it because there was not enough money coming in, right? So, for those of you that are thinking about or that have started a nonprofit organization, but now funding is your biggest challenge. Now I need grants. Jen, now I need sponsors. Jen, now I need funding. Jen, now I need supporters. Jen, how do I get the money to operate? I want to tell you simply, plainly, directly. That money comes as a result of your organizational structure, the operations. What does that include, Jen? That includes your communication. That includes your visibility. That includes your ask, not for the money. We're not asking for the money, right? We are giving value. Your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, your sponsors, they're not strangers. So you're not walking up to a stranger and saying, give me money. You're not walking up to a stranger and saying, give me money. If that were the case, After they would have made the donation, after they would have made the contribution, what then would motivate, compel, inspire them to make a second donation, a third donation, to become a regular donor, a monthly donor? It's not because you don't have any money. It's not because you are a nonprofit organization. It is because you are ready. Is because your organization is structured to know how to sustain itself. Am I making sense? Now, let me say this. The nonprofit organization has been closely associated with money, funding, grants, right? Jen, I heard that if I started a nonprofit, it'd be easier for me to get funding. Jen, I started my nonprofit organization, but I need a startup grant. Jen, I started my nonprofit organization, and you understand that the money, right, is needed to function, to be able to do the work of the program, to be able to have the team, the staff, the materials, the supplies, the equipment, the space to do the work. It takes money. But unfortunately, many of you realize that too late, after you filed your paperwork, after you started your program, after you started paying for everything out of your pocket, after you started realizing that we don't have a budget and we don't know how much this thing is going to cost on an ongoing basis. But let me say this, as a as an organization, or as an institution that is of value to your community, money is not the problem. The problem is we don't have the structure, we don't have the plan, we don't have the system, we don't have the tools, we don't have the knowledge of how to generate the money to sustain this thing. That's what you're missing. You're missing the knowledge of how. How do I maintain? How do I sustain? How do I grow? How do I make visible? How do I share the value of this work? Right? And so today I want to talk about something very directly. I want you to understand that it's not that I need the money first. That's not the issue, right? Jen, I started my nonprofit. I need a grant. Jen, I started my nonprofit. I need donors. Jen, I started my nonprofit and funding is my biggest challenge. You don't start with the funder. You start with your organization. And is your organization giving the funder, the donor, the supporter, the grant foundation, right? Those capital issuing authorities. Is the organization giving the funder what they expect to see before they say yes? I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. You want to examine, is your organization positioned, prepared, equipped to give the funder, the donor, the foundation, the corporation, the partner? Are you prepared to give them what they need to see before they say yes? I don't think that's a perspective that many of you are considering. And I believe, again, it's from the misinformation and the miseducation. That your idea of, I'm a nonprofit, I can get a grant. I'm a nonprofit, I can get donors. I'm a nonprofit, I can get funding. I'm a nonprofit, people will give me money because I'm a nonprofit. And that is not true. If that were true, then why is it so hard to get the money? Why is it that you're paying for everything out of your pocket? Why is it that you are stuck financially? Why is funding your biggest issue if all you got to be is a nonprofit and funding will come to you? Because that's not it. You should be asking yourself, are we as an organization giving the funder what they need to see before they say yes? They're not funding your program. I'm just being real. They're not funding your passion or your idea. They're not funding your emotional connection to what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. That's not what they're giving the money for. And this is why most organizations are not as ready as they think they are, right? Because you think all I got to do is have my paperwork. All I've got to do, Jen, is file my paperwork and I can get a grant. Jen, I got my paperwork. I got my 501c3, Jen. I need a grant. Other than that, are you prepared? Are you equipped? Do you even know what the funder, the donor, the supporter, the contributor, the sponsor, the partner, the foundation, do you know what they expect to see before they ever say yes? I want to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer. I am a nonprofit expert over 39 years. May is going to be 40 years of doing this work in the nonprofit space. I'm a professional fundraiser. I am a grant writer. I am a master nonprofit strategist. I help organizations put together the systems, the tools, the structure to attract the support of the donor. Did you hear what I said? Are you prepared to give the funder what they need to see so that they are attracted, so that they are inspired, so that they are interested in funding your work? This is an evaluation opportunity, particularly for those of you that get in my inbox and say, Jen, I need a grant. Jen, I need funding. Jen, I need help with donors. Jen, funding is my biggest challenge. This is your opportunity to really evaluate. Evaluate. I want you to really assess where you are and are you ready? I want to talk about what really happens when you submit the grant application, when you make a request of an individual to make a donation or a contribution, when you want the business to sponsor or to walk alongside your organization. I want to really talk about what really happens when they review your nonprofit. Do you guys know that they review your nonprofit? They review your nonprofit organization. They're not reviewing your passion. They're not reviewing that you filled out paperwork. No, they're reviewing your organization. You think they're asking, is the mission good? Is the need real? Right? Because you're thinking, oh my gosh, Jen, I started my nonprofit and I want to do good. Jen, I started my nonprofit and I want to help single moms. Jen, I started my nonprofit and this is our mission to help young people. Jen, I want to help the homeless. Jen, I want to help veterans. Jen, I want to, whatever it is that you want to do, which is good. And so you're thinking they're going to give us money because we're doing good. They're giving us money because there's a need and the need is real. And because we're doing good, they're going to give us money. That's what you may be thinking. But internally, that's not what they're thinking. Because if all it took was a 501c3, everybody's got that. Everybody wants to do good. Everybody's doing that. Well, then why is it so hard to get money? Everybody got the 501c3. How come now it's so hard to get the grant? How come it now is so hard to find donors and funders and supporters and contributors? Why is it so financially difficult to inspire, to motivate, to draw the interest of those that could support this work? Because what you think they're asking and what they're really asking is not the same thing. You think they're asking, is the mission good? Is the need real? Fair. But internally, when they're making the decision on who they're going to give the money to, that's not an emotional decision. They're asking, is this organization safe? I want you to ask yourself, is my organization safe? Is my organization financially a safe place? Put yourself in the donor shoes. Take yourself out of the panic mode of I need money, I need money. I want you to really assess, is my organization safe financially? Do we have a budget? Do we have a sustainability plan? Do we know how much it costs to run and operate the organization and the program? Is the leadership mature? Or are you doing everything by yourself? No, Jen, I don't know how to find board members. No, Jen, I'm doing everything by myself. No, Jen, we don't have any help or support. No, Jen, everything falls on me. Is your leadership? You are the CEO. You are the executive director. You have a board around you. But Jen, my board's not helping me. Jen, my board's not active. Jen, my board's not engaged. Then I want you to really ask yourself, is the leadership mature? And if the answer to that is no, are you safe? They want to know, the donor, the funder, those capital issuing authorities, they want to know, can you manage their money responsibly? Not that you're going to spend it, you're going to spend it, but can you manage it responsibly? Do you have a budget? Do you have expenses? Are you managing the financials? And before they ever say yes, they are running an evaluation. On that grant application, what do they ask? They ask for your financials. They ask for your budget. They ask for your sustainability plan. They ask, what is the background of the person running the organization? They ask, who's on your board? Have you seen that in the grant application? That has nothing, it's not only about your mission. It's not only about the good that you want to do. It's about, is your organization safe? And most of you don't even know that the evaluation is happening. You don't even know that it's happening. Because you were told, start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. Start a nonprofit, you can get donors. Start a nonprofit and you can get funding. So you jumped out the window. You started doing the work of the program, but now you're paying for everything out of your own pocket. And now you're desperate for money. But you don't know what it is that is going to cause those that would be donors, funders, supporters, contributors, sponsors, what it is that they need to see before they say yes. And this is exactly why funding feels unpredictable. I'm going to let that sit for a moment. This is why funding feels unpredictable. It's not a money issue. That's not a money issue. That's an issue of, are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you positioned? Do you or can you give the donor, the funder, the supporter, those capital issuing authorities what they need to see before they say yes? And let me tell you a hard truth. I had somebody say to me the other day, Jen, I don't like the way you talk to people. I said, I'm telling you the truth. You want me to whisper the truth? You want me to write the truth down? How would you like the truth delivered? Would you rather I lie to you? Would you rather I misinform you, mislead you? I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, if you can't handle the truth, that's not a me issue. I just had to vent right there. The hard truth is this: if grants feel out of reach, if donors don't stay, what does that mean? That means they made a one time donation but never donated again. They attended an event, but then you never heard from them again, right? They didn't stay. If funding conversations feel intimidating, it's rarely about passion. It's almost always about readiness. I'm going to say that again. This is a hard truth. I want you to look at yourself now. If grants feel out of reach, if donors don't stay, they made a one time gift and then never gave again. If funding conversations with your community, conversations with individuals, with corporations, if those conversations feel intimidating, it's rarely about passion. It's almost always about readiness. Let me tell you this: these capital issuing authorities, the grant funder, the foundation, those that you are giving requests to the corporations for sponsorship, they don't just review your proposal. I want you to hear me now. They don't just review your proposal. They review your structure, your governance, your financial clarity, your sustainability plan. And they are looking for signals. I'm going to tell you the truth about what they expect to see. This is what the funder expects to see. This is what the capital issuing authority expects to see. Number one, they expect to see organizational clarity. Not just your passion, not just what you want to do, not just what you started and why you started it. They expect to see a clearly defined mission, a focused scope. Now, this is where many of you think that you have a clearly defined mission, and what you do not have is that. You have a vague explanation of what you started, but that's not a defined mission. The mission is on the organization and not on the program. All right? If you don't have a focused scope, for those of you whose mission is so broad, it would be impossible to achieve, right? They expect to see alignment between your programs and your purpose. Now, for many of you, you ask Cousin Chat to come up with your mission, right? Cousin Chat wrote your mission. But there's no alignment between your programs and that mission being accomplished. If your programs are scattered, Jen, we're feeding the homeless. Jen, we're giving out backpacks. Jen, we're giving people hotel rooms. Jen, yeah, we're inviting people to come and we're passing out clothes. You're just doing all kinds of stuff. a lot of activities. If your programs are scattered or your messaging is unclear, that signals instability. Did you hear what I said? You're all over the place. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Not that that's all not needed or good, but that doesn't mean that you're stable. That doesn't mean that you're a good place to invest money. If you're not able to clearly define what our organization is here to do and what we are equipped to do, what we have the experience in doing, what we have the history of the success to doing, that clarity reduces risk, financial risk. And so, if the donor, the funder, the foundation, they think that you are a risk if you're not able to define what is the mission, why is it important, what's your focus scope, how do you align your work, because the work is where the money goes, with your ability to accomplish the mission. If that's not clear, you're a risk. They expect to see clarity. That's not unreasonable, right? Number two, they expect to see an active governance. They expect to see an engaged board. I know many of you who started out, you went and got this paperwork file, right? So you put your mother, your brother, your dog, your catch a fish on the board because you want the paperwork. Not that you even know what the role and responsibilities of the board are, or not even that you know the role of you as the CEO with the board. I just know I needed a board, Jen. I don't know what they're supposed to do. Or even better yet, Jen, I don't want a board because I heard that the board, Jen, you know, I got to answer to the board. This is my organization. It's not your organization. Anyway, let me keep moving. They expect to see an engaged board. That is a requirement. It's a requirement for your organization. They expect to see oversight beyond you because you're spending, you are securing the public's money. They expect to see strategic direction. You are accountable to the public's money. There should be some strategic direction of how are the organization going to grow? How are we going to sustain ourselves? How are we managing the resources? There should be an expectation of strategic direction. If everything runs through one person, Jen, I do everything. I run the board, I run the program. I'm learning how to write grants. I'm learning how to do the social media. Everything runs through me. And if anything happens to you, then the organization is done. If everything runs through one person, that's a red flag. And being a founder dependent, that means everything dependent on you, that equals risk. That equals risk. This is not a money issue. This is a risk issue. Are you if are you showing yourself to be too much of a risk to a donor and a funder to invest in? Number three, financial infrastructure. Imagine that. They expect you to have financial infrastructure because you're asking for their money. Imagine that. Imagine that they would expect you to have financial infrastructure because you are asking for their money. They expect an operating budget, financial tracking, clear separation of funds for those of you that are paying for everything out of your pocket and the organization isn't raising any money. What? They expect financial oversight. They're not asking if you're wealthy. They are asking if you are responsible. That is a reasonable expectation that you know how to manage their money, that you have you have a financial plan, that you understand the difference between expenses and revenues, that you know where money comes from, that you know how much it's going to cost to operate the organization month after month. That's a reasonable expectation. Number 4, that you have a defined fundraising strategy. If your answer to sustainability is we apply for grants, that signals fragility. That signals that you are financially fragile. If your answer is, what is your plan for sustainability? And you respond, we apply for grants or we have fundraisers, you're fragile. They expect a diverse revenue. You've got 15 streams of revenue. They expect that you understand diversification of revenue. They expect that you understand donor cultivation. They expect that you understand long-term planning. Grants support designated program elements. Grants support the structure. They don't replace the structure. I'm going to say that again. Grants support your organizational structure. They don't replace the structure. So they expect that when their monies have been spent, that you have the system, that you have the knowledge, that you have the process, that you have the ability, that you have the capacity to keep money coming in, that you have a defined generating of revenue fundraising strategy. Is that too far-fetched for them to say you started an organization that has real expenses, that you then would have the knowledge, the plan, the strategy, the capacity to bring in real revenue to maintain those expenses? Because if you started it, but now we can't pay our bills, now we can't pay the expenses, now we don't have enough money to operate, now there's no money to go forward, you are risk. Number 5, they expect to see program accountability. They expect to see outcomes measurement, data tracking, reporting system. They expect to see testimonials, stories that inspire. They expect to see data that proves your program works. Can you imagine? They want to know if your program actually works. Not that you want to do it, not that you're passionate about doing, but does it work? Does it meet a need? Does it accomplish the mission? Not that you just want to do it, but does it work? Do you have the data to prove that it works? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Number 6, that you know how to manage risk, that your organization knows how to manage risk. They expect there to be policies. They expect there to be leadership maturity. They expect to see that there is some experience in running an organization, not just living your dream and your passion and running this program. They expect that you understand compliance. They are investing in leaders, CEOs, executive directors who understand risk and not just ignore it. What does that look like? Well, Jen, we have our 501(c)(3, but we don't have a board. Risk. Jen, we have our 501(c)(3, but we don't have a plan to sustain it. Risk. Jen, I don't know how to find donors. Risk. Jen, I don't know how to find board members. Risk. Jen, I'm paying for everything out of my own pocket. Risk. And you ignore the risks. You ignore the risks that would keep you compliant, that would put your organization within a structure and a plan for sustainability. You ignore that, but you want them to give you their money. Come on now. Jen, I don't know how. They expect to see that if they're going to invest, but you ignore the risk. So if you ignore the risk, why then would they give you their money? This is not a money issue. This is not a money issue. This is a readiness issue. This is a risk issue, right? Number 7, do you have sustainability thinking? Do you have sustainability thinking? They want to know what happens after our funding ends. What happens after our funding ends? If the answer is we'll apply for another grant, the answer is going to be no. Because sustainability signals long-term thinking. Y'all, I think one of my biggest frustrations is the people that start the nonprofit, but then don't think long-term about how they're going to sustain it. Like, I started it, but I don't know what to do next. I started it, but I don't know how to get board members. I started it, but I don't know how to get funding. I started it, but I don't know how to put together a budget. It's like there is no long-term thinking at all. But I started it. But I didn't think beyond getting the paperwork. I didn't think beyond getting the 501(c)(3. I didn't think about how much it was going to cost to run the organization month after month, week after week, year after year. I didn't think about how much we were how what kind of team we were going to need and how much that was going to cost. I didn't think about how much this program costs. I didn't think about how much time it was going to take to run the organization. I didn't think about any of that. I just started. And the donor and the funder is thinking, you don't have any long-term planning. Let me tell you the truth. And this is why most nonprofit organizations struggle. It's not a money issue. It's that when people start their nonprofits, when you start it, you think, oh, I'll file the paperwork. I'll launch the program, and then I'll apply for grants. Yeah, that's the order. I'll file the paperwork, I'll launch the program, and I'll apply for grants. Because somebody said, start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. Or someone may have said, I just got this organization $50,000, $100,000. I just got this organization $1 million. And so you're thinking, oh my gosh, if I start my nonprofit, I can get $1,000. I can get $50,000 too. I can get $100,000 too. I can get $1 million too. But you don't realize that starting a nonprofit means building a structure that funders can trust. Those organizations that got the 50,000, the 100,000, the $1 million grant, it was because the donor, the funder, the supporter felt like they could trust them with that money. It wasn't because they were a nonprofit only. It was because they were able to show that they were structured in a way to give the donor, the funder, the supporter, those capital issuing authorities what they needed to see to trust them with that money. And that's the part that no one says out loud, but that's exactly what happened. And the misunderstanding of this, not understanding what most organizations miss, it is the source of burnout, the grant rejections, the donor instability, the board frustration, and the founder exhaustion, the disappointment. It's not because of lack of heart. It's because of lack of structural sequence. Listen, if this is making you realize we have programs, but no infrastructure, we have passion, but no structure. The next step is not another grant application. That's not the next step. The next step is building readiness. Okay? Don't apply, don't pay another grant writer. I'm a grant writer. Okay? Don't pay another grant writer. Use that money to build readiness. Use that money so that the organization is able, positioned, structured to receive funding outside the grant. That while you're waiting on the grant, you have the other diverse streams of revenue coming in. Use that money that you would pay another grant writer. Use that money to build the infrastructure within the organization to raise more money. Okay? Because that grant is not guaranteed. Not everybody's going to get that grant. And while you're waiting on those grant dollars, you should be structured to bring in revenue from the other 14 streams of revenue. Listen, this is exactly why I created a 3-day nonprofit summit, May 6th through the 8th in Houston. It is going to be a time where we are building together those internal infrastructural systems to generate revenue for your organization on an ongoing basis. You cannot operate on grants. It's impossible. Did you hear what I said? It is impossible. It's impossible to rely on grant dollars. It is impossible. And the grant funder is going to ask you, where else does money come from? What is your plan for sustainability? What are your other streams of revenue? That's going to be in the grant application. So, what you want to do now is to build that foundational organizational structure, that fundraising capacity to not just get more grants, but to get the other 14 streams of revenue as well. Over those 3 days, May 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're going to talk about your foundation, your organization's foundation and structure and systems to raise the multiple streams of revenue. You've got 15 streams of revenue. You've got to have a plan, you've got to have a system, you've got to have a strategy to raise more money. If you don't have that, then that's why you don't have enough money. You don't then have the plan, you don't have the system, you don't have the structure to raise it. If you don't know how to raise it, then we know you don't have the system to raise it, the structure to raise it, the capacity to raise it. And if you can't raise the money, where's the money going to come from? What is raising the money? What is fundraising? Let's clear that up. What is fundraising? It's not about asking for money. It's about showing the donors, the funders, the supporters, the contributors that they can trust you with their money. That you have the 7 things I just talked about. Before they say yes, they are evaluating, do you have these things? And if the answer to that is no, we don't have those things, Jen, then no, you're not getting the money. Fundraising is not about begging for money. It's about showing, it's about proving, it's about positioning your organization to be clear, to be succinct, to draw the interest of the donor and the funder. Day 1, we're going to talk about your organizational clarity, the strategy, the messaging, the visibility. Day 2, we're going to talk about your fundraising systems, your capacity, the multiple streams of revenue. Day 3, we're going to talk about grants and stewardship, donor cultivation. Listen, I'm not about hype. I'm not about hype. I'm not about shortcuts. I'm not about guesswork. So this is no hype. This is not shortcuts. This is not guesswork. This is about structure. This is about the sequence in which you start your organization. And this is about clarity. Because your donors, your funders, those capital issuing authorities, they don't say yes to need alone. They say yes to your readiness. And readiness can be built when you're willing to build it correctly. Many of you started your nonprofit organizations and you started it incorrectly, and no one told you otherwise. How would you know? You're not struggling because of lack of money. That's not why you're struggling. You're struggling because you're not structured properly. You are not giving or know how to give the donor, the funder, the supporter, the contributor, those capital issuing authorities, what they need to see before they say yes. Listen, if you are serious about moving from hopeful to fundable, then Houston is where that shift happens. I only have 5 more spots for Houston. If you want one of those spots, I invite you to go to my link tree. I invite you to register now. Don't wait. And I invite you to take advantage of the one-on-one opportunity that you'll get when you register. All right. This again is for those of you that say, Jen, I don't want to just start a nonprofit. I want to know how to structure it, how to fund it, how to sustain it, how to ensure that we have what it takes to have the long-term sustainability, the plan for sustainability that's going to attract a donor and a funder. All right. I hope that this information has been helpful. I want to say thank you again for joining. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you in our next conversation. Take care.